That looks so good.
You're watching Conscious Mind Tripping with your host, Audrey Newmont.
Here we are, the very first Wednesday of 2024, and I got some stuff to talk about with you today to start the year off on a really good note. And I'm very excited about this year. I think there's going to be a lot of great things happening. There's also going to be some challenges, as many of us know, and we're going to work through them. So before I get to the good stuff and the story that I have for you today, I want to start off with our usual announcements. We have a whole bunch of new things that we're doing at Newmont Center, and some of it is on Zoom for those of you that are not in the area, and many of them are in person. So first thing on the list is a parenting class that I will be co-facilitating with Mika Shoemaker. It's going to be on Tuesday mornings at, I believe, 9:15. For all the dates and times, you can go to newmontcenter.net and you can see what we have going on there. So I work with a lot of families, and what I'm seeing is ever since COVID, there's been a lot of parents who are having some big challenges with their kids. It's been a whole shift in how we work with kids. And so in this parenting class, we're going to be discussing a lot of these challenges that we're facing. We're going to come together as a community, and we're going to focus on the solutions for how to make the families much more balanced and happy. So that's coming up on this coming Tuesday. Also on Tuesday, Jason is going to have not this Tuesday, he's going to be back the next Tuesday for his empowerment group for men, which if you're a guy in the area, and he's going to be doing Zoom, I've seen these guys really, really expand their consciousness. It's been really good to watch, and they're really supportive with each other, and I think we all need that right now. Also on Mondays, Nick is starting a new meditation group. If you've never taken his meditation group, this is the one to take. So if you've ever had a challenge with meditation, if you're unclear of how to really connect, he's a master at that, and he's really just incredible at assisting people in going to the next level with their practice. So that's coming up on this Monday. I believe it's an 8-week series that he does. So that starts Monday. Also, I am going to be creating a new group that's coming up on Thursday. So I'm no longer going to have that grief support group. It seems as though maybe that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. So what I am going to be doing is it's going to be a 6-week series. It's going to be a class. It will be on Zoom and in person, and it is spiritual and mental alchemy. So much of the time when I'm in session, we're dealing with the business of life. You know, people have the things that are going on, and I'm sharing with them the different tools, and they're using all of that to, really realign themselves and make their lives better. One of the things that I don't get to in session enough is that connection with our higher self and what that means, what it looks like. So this is going to be a combination of really understanding that from a deeper point, a deeper level. I'm going to be bringing in the different authors that I've learned from for all these years, like Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Deepak Chopra, all the different people, and Paul Selig, who has been a newer one that has just been amazing. Another by the name of Michael Racia. He's really good as well. So I'll be using their books, and we'll be kind of condensing them and making it into a real user-friendly format. So if you are in a position in your life where it's like you keep looking to make it happen, and there just seems to be this missing piece, that's your higher power, this is going to be the class for you. So it starts next Thursday. And then we also have coming up, Nick and I are going to be facilitating our Focus on Success workshop. That's another one. If you're an entrepreneur or if you're in your business and you're really wanting to take it to the next level, we've had many people over the years that have done that, and it has been quite the hit. It's one of our most popular workshops, and that's coming up at the beginning of February. And this coming Saturday, Selena is going to be having a facial party, as it were, and she's going to be using the doTERRA products, and it should be a fun time. It's from 3 to 5, and it's a mommy and me, or if you just want to come and do it yourself, it's going to be just like a more girl thing to do, or if you're a guy and you want a facial, it's going to be a fun afternoon. So that is happening this Saturday. And I'm very excited to say that Catherine Glass is coming back in the house. She's going to be in March, and she's coming with a couple of her friends. They're going to be doing a workshop, and that's going to be amazing. And I have some other people in the mix that I'm looking to get on board as well. So you can go to newmontcenter.net, and you can see what's happening. Also, I'm just about to get a newsletter out in the mail. I have been working on this for a little while here. I've just been so busy. It's like a lot to get these things going. So if you want to be on our newsletter list, mailing list, text me and I'll put you on, and you can see all the events for yourself. So I think that's all of the announcements, and that leads us to the topic of the day. So over the holiday, I got a cold, and I'm not usually sick, so it was very interesting for me, and I had to spend some time literally and just be down. So while I'm down, I decided to watch a series. Actually, I watched two, but the one series I want to talk about today, I'm going to weave it into what I do and why it's important. So I'll tell you, it's The Queen's Gambit. And if you have watched it, then it'll be fun to go on this adventure with me. If you haven't watched it and you don't want to hear what the series was about, maybe stop watching and then watch this again later after you've watched it, or watch this, and then when you actually see the series, you can look at it with a new perception or with more insight into the show. Nick and I we don't watch shows that are like this, because being therapists, we don't want to, watch shows where it's like we get caught up in people's drama, that stuff of life. We want to watch things that are a bit more light, more intellectually fun. Like we like things like Ted Lasso was great, Schitt's Creek, Boston Legal was fun for the series, and now we're just getting to the end of Suits. We like all of those kind of things. So Nick isn't usually the kind of person that wants to sit down with me and watch The Queen's Gambit. But I watched it, and I found it to be, number one, really well done and very interesting. And watching it from a therapist perspective, it was very interesting to look at the whole story, and it was a lot of fun. So when I'm working with my clients as a therapist, there's all these things that I'm looking at. I'm kind of like their private investigator, and I am looking to help them understand how their past has created what's happening in the present. So when I'm watching The Queen's Gambit, I'm looking at her story, and you can see clearly how she came to be in the situation that she was in. So I want to share some parts of it, and I want to kind of equate it to our lives and what happens with many of us. So as I'm watching it, it starts out with this little girl, and she's been in an accident, and she came out pretty much unscathed, but her mother passed. And so they put her into an orphanage. And this is back like in the early 1900s. So things were a little bit different then. And, well, I don't know what they are now, but it's just how things were for her. And so as I'm watching this, one of the things in that orphanage, and it was an all-girls school, all-girls place, one thing that they did back then is they would give kids tranquilizers. And so she's there, and she's obviously shell-shocked, she's in trauma, and they give her this tranquilizer, and, you know, they made it where you can see how it had this effect on her. And as they give her this tranquilizer, you know, it's like, it's not something that is her norm, so it's this like new introduction while she's in a state of trauma. And this is important for various reasons, and I'm going to get to my notes so I stay on track with what I'm saying here. And Ed, I don't know if there's anybody commenting here. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, we got no comments yet.
So as I'm watching it, this girl's in this place, and it's the kind of situation where it's very regimented, and there's not a lot of, let's just say, festivity going on. It's an all-girls, like, very serious school. So as she's in there, she goes down to clean off the erasers, and she goes into the basement, and there's this man there, and he's playing chess. Now, she has no father. Her mother didn't have a father figure for her in her life. And so she sees this chessboard there, and she's curious about it, and she asks this janitor if he'll teach her how to play. Well, turns out she has the kind of mind where she can look at these things and she can see the different moves. You know, she's got the kind of thinking, which, by the way, is not my thing. Nick and I will play chess, and I'm just like, ugh, I don't think like that. I do like to play backgammon with him and rummy and different things like that, but chess is one of those things where it's like, you really have to be very specific about what you're doing, and you really have to kind of know the game. So as I'm watching this janitor, she just gets fascinated with it, and she starts learning the game. And she starts understanding what these pills are doing. And so she starts realizing if she stashes the pills, then she can take them all at night when she goes to bed. And what she does is she starts imagining the board on the ceiling, and she starts, in her mind, she starts imagining how the chess moves can happen. And she starts utilizing that part of her mind that is able to kind of click in. And they don't say this in the movie, but what she's doing is she's kind of clicking into that higher part of her that's able to be more expansive, that's able to think more expansively. And she's using the tranquilizers to do this. So she learns the game. Before you know it, she starts beating the janitor, and the janitor is like, what's going on here? This girl is brilliant. So he brings in the high school coach. One thing turns into another, and she starts competing in the high school. Excuse me, I still have a little bit of this cough. So things progress, and she is the kind of person, now remember, in the work that I do, one of the things that I share with people is that period in our lives that's the 0 to 8. That is a lot of the mental program that we take on about who we are. So this girl in her 0 to 8, there's flashbacks that she has with her mother, and in those flashbacks, the mother's like, you have to fend for yourself, and you're going to be alone, and all of these things that she's literally kind of programmed into her. So this girl is very individualized in herself, and she's coming from a place of being very, self-contained, but she's got this one girl in the orphanage that is kind of her mentor, kind of her buddy. It's that older girl that kind of looks out for her. So she starts competing, and one thing leads to another, and she starts expanding, and she starts winning against everybody that she plays. And at that time, women weren't playing this. It was all a men's world. So here she is, this 15, 14-year-old girl that comes in and starts winning all these competitions. So as I'm watching this, I'm looking at this, and there's a part of it where you look at her, and she knows absolutely within herself, this is where I excel. So there's a part of it where I'm looking at the character, and it's like she owns her confidence. She owns her ability to connect, however she's doing that, and she's able to be in the board. She's able to literally look at what her opponents are doing, and she's able to keep herself in the offensive mode rather than the defensive mode. So I wanted to relate some of this to life. You know, I have a lot of clients that come in, and their first session, I'll ask them, what's your intention? Like recently, I had a new person that came in, and it's a younger person, and it's like, what is it that you would like? You know, what's your intention? He's like, I don't know. And it's like, there has to be something where we know this is a direction that you want to take. Like if you're just sitting in front of a game board, or you're sitting in front of a screen, like this person's a gamer, I was saying to them, and I want you to really get with any games that we play, I don't think it's ever anybody's intention that I'm going to be the loser. We play to win. And so when we are having that intention in life, this is what I'm doing, that's us, I'm going to play to win at whatever the thing is in life. Like, for instance, this person, it's like, do you just want to be happier? Well, I guess so, yes. So when you're looking at this year coming ahead and you're going to be playing the game of your life, there's a part of it, it's like, what do you want to happen? A lot of times we aren't in the game. So I've been relating this game with some of my clients. It's like when you're playing the game of chess in particular, there's all these different strategies. There's all these different possibilities. There's all these options that you can take, and then you have to wait and see what the other person's going to do before you see your next move. And in life, much of the time, that's how it happens. As an example, I have somebody that came in. I know they don't mind me talking like this. This person's on the younger side as well, and it's a moment for them where they have options. They have no serious commitments, and they can do pretty much anything that they want to do. But again, you have to be intentional with what that is. So I literally said to them, all right, so put your name here, and you're going on your 101 freeway. You're going to drive the freeway of your life, play the game, and on each side of the freeway, I want you to be putting, these are options. Like, I could do this. I could do that. What are the pros and cons to doing any of these things? What are the actions that I can take to make these things happen? So instead of just having life be whatever's going to happen, you're literally intentionally mapping it out so that you are owning the board. You're owning whatever happens, I'm good with it, and I know where it is that I'm going to go. And with Nick and I, you know, we work with all these people. When our clients do that, when they are intentional, this is the path, it makes a huge difference. It makes an enormous difference. And some of the times we get thrown off of the path. Sometimes it's like we think we're going to be going somewhere, and life creates a detour for us. So when you are able to be in the detour, and then it's like, all right, so what am I going to learn here? How am I going to grow from it? Then you can get back in intentionally on the game. Like if you're playing chess, you know you're going to make this move, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, your piece is gone. That's a bit of a detour, so you have to reconfigure, what am I going to do here? How am I going to make this happen? So what we've seen, or what I see with a lot of my clients, there's much of the time where people get on the defense. I'll give you an example of that. There's scenarios that happen in all of our lives where another person will move their piece and they do something and it's like, I didn't like what they did. And rather than dealing with the situation, they get on the defense about it, and then they're angry or they're anxious or they're worried or whatever the thing is that the other person causes, and they get on the defense. So they don't learn from the experience, they don't use the information, and they create an avenue for themselves where they're on the defense, so they're not moving intentionally as much as they want to. So why is all of this important? In this coming year, there's going to be moments where we're going to be having things happen that are maybe unexpected. There's going to be things that are, I don't know, with regard to financial things, sometimes with regard to the health matters, sometimes regard to your work and various avenues. So when these things come up, if ahead of time you're looking at it and you're strategizing for yourself, I'm going to be the calm in the midst of a storm. I am creating an avenue where if something happens, I've created a safety net in whatever way, shape, or form that looks like. You're owning your ability to be on your game board, and you're looking at how is it that I'm going to keep myself grounded and centered and focused and calm. So when I was watching this movie, or not movie, it's a series, but I'm telling you, it was really very interesting on so many levels. I'm looking at this girl, and sometimes in life we have to know why we are how we are. So this goes back to another story, and I think it's very important for many people, because one of the things that I see, one of the things that turns into a big problem for a lot of people is they have their addictions. They have their things that they do that don't support a healthy body, a healthy mind, a healthy lifestyle. And it's important to get those things are habits that we pick up along the way. Most of the time, not always, because sometimes moms are doing whatever and kids come out and they're affected. But a lot of times, it's because of our history. Like, for instance, this girl, at a very young age, they start giving her tranquilizers, and she starts to use them in a way where instead of just taking the one, she stores them up and she takes a lot, and she creates this experience for herself that she realizes, I can use this. So then as she's winning these different tournaments, she starts using not only that, but then her mother introduces her to her adopted mother. She got adopted. Her mother introduces her to a vodka martini, or it was a gin martini, whatever, but it's a drink. And so then she realizes, oh, so this, along with the drugs, creates whatever experience for her. And throughout the movie, you see how she becomes more addicted, and she creates a scenario for herself where it was extremely bad. And I want to talk about this for a minute, because if this is something that you struggle with, or if you know somebody that struggles with, I want to give you an example of how this can come about in life. You know, I'm looking at the movie and I'm looking at this girl's timeline, but I'm also thinking about different clients that I've worked with for all these years. And one person in particular comes to mind. This person had a very strong addiction, drugs and alcohol. And again, these people are all anonymous, but as they are telling me their story, they tell me at the age of 6 that they had a traumatic experience where they had an allergic reaction to something and they couldn't breathe. And between the person and their parent, they had this really traumatic moment. And it was a very big deal. So obviously she made it through that moment, and she tells me more of the story. And then she says, when I was 12 years old, I had a experience where I had an anxiety attack and I couldn't breathe. It's like, all right. And so at that point, doctors being doctors, they start her on anti-anxiety medication. They don't investigate what's going on here. It's just, you obviously are an anxious person, and this is what we do for anxious people. So then I guess she's better, and she's telling me more of the story. And then again at 18, out of nowhere, she has another moment of a strong anxiety attack, panic attack, and again she can't breathe. So as I'm listening to this timeline, I'm listening to her story, in my mind, I'm like 6, 12, 18. I looked at her and I said, so did something happen when you were born? Like, was the umbilical cord wrapped around your neck or something? Because I'm looking at the patterns. I'm looking at where this came about. And she looks at me and she says, no. But when I was 3 weeks old, I had the whooping cough. There you go. She has a trauma here, another trauma. It's no accident that another 6 years later, there's another trauma with the same kind of thing. We get into these patterns of things. And that's why that timeline is such a good tool. When you're using that, you can understand, this isn't who I am. This is what I have created, not intentionally. So when you're looking at it, it helps to take out that guilt. It helps to take out the shame, the blame, the remorse, all those things that will keep you in addiction. So when I'm looking at this movie of the Queen's Gambit, she had one of these people in her life that was able to start to show her, look, this isn't working for you. This is literally costing you dearly. And it was that insight for her of, I see what you're saying. And she was able to go through a moment where she was able to let it go. It's a process. And then there was an interesting part to it where she was up for the world championship against this Russian. And there was a part of it where she wanted to take those drugs again, because that's the thing where she could tap in. People do drugs for all different kinds of reasons, and there's no judgment on why we do it. But when you're understanding how you can tap in and you can be that higher power of you, that's what she was using the drugs for. It would help her to be able to kind of step out of her mind a bit, slow it down, do whatever it needed to do, so that she was able to see the chessboard on the ceiling, so she was able to make the moves that would win the game. So the cool thing was, she had gotten these things out of her system. She had done the process to let that go. But then in this moment, she literally was like, I need that drug in order to win the game. Pardon me. The cool thing is, in the show, she's there and she realized at that point in the game where it's like, I need to make the right move or I'm going to lose. She was able to look up and she was able to be that higher part of herself. She was able to connect and do it without the drugs. And for her, that must have been an enlightening moment. And it also helped her. She won the game. So it's super important to understand. And for those of us that have these challenges with addiction, there is a part of it where the whatever it is just tapping into already who you are. Like in that show, she already had it, but as a little girl, she didn't know how to access it. She didn't know how to use it. And the drugs opened that door for her on whatever level that was. when she was able to let it go and really own her own power, she's able to do that on her own. And that's something that we can all do. It's something that we were born to do. So a lot of times people look at Nick and they're like, wow, you know what, he can do all of these amazing things. And many people think, oh, I could never do any of that. And that's why it's really a very great thing to take the meditation class that he teaches, because he helps to people to open up that avenue where we're able to do that, where we're able to be that source. So, and I want to speak to that for another minute. In my own life, when Nick and I first met like 24 years ago, it seems like forever ago, I was studying to be a practitioner at that point, and he was teaching that class where you literally are learning how to own your clairs, clairsentient, clairvoyant, all of them. And I'm in this class and people are tapping into all of this stuff. They're seeing the aura. They're getting messages from people's items, and they're really just like tuning in. And I'm telling you, I was getting nothing. It was like, this is just not fun. I'm his girlfriend and I'm in a practitioner training and I'm not getting anything. And it was a level of frustration for me. And fast forward over the years, there have been moments now where I understand my gift, and you have a gift. So when you're looking at this year ahead, there is this moment that we're all experiencing, and part of the moment is we're moving into a new kind of energetic for all of us, where all of our abilities to be tapped into that higher part of us are becoming more and more accessible. It's like the veil is dropping and we are able to be more connected to that intuition, that insight, that it's really an unnameable thing. So between Nick's meditation class and the spiritual mental alchemy, that's, I think, our intention for you and for our clients and for people who are interested in taking your empowerment to the next level. So when I was watching this show, it was such a neat moment in the show where she was able to drop the artificial and to be able to own her ability to be tapped in and see the plays, because you see the chess pieces moving around and she's like, which is the one, which is the one that makes me the winner? And she found it. And it's funny because she's looking up at the ceiling and this Russian's looking at her like, what are you looking at? And she won the game. So that's another reason why I thought this film was fascinating. So there was another part to it that I thought was very interesting, and it's for all of us as well. This girl had no father, and the janitor ended up being her father figure. It was the first person that was, aside from her mother, somebody who really took that time with her, and he would, be like a fatherly figure as they were playing chess. And she doesn't know any different. She just knows what she knows. So at a point in the show, he passed. And she went back to the orphanage with the older friend of hers. And she went down into the basement. And it was an interesting moment because she never knew really that he cared for her. But when she went down there, she saw on a wall a whole collage of all of the different wins that she had had. And somebody came there and took a picture of the two of them, and he had that up on that wall. And I think it was one of those moments where she was able to really understand how much he cared for her, and he, was proud of her. And, and for her, it was a moment of, I think, deep insight. And you don't see this person getting that emotional in the movie, but in this particular scene, there was a lot of emotion, and it was fun to watch her gain that understanding. As a therapist, again, when I'm working with my clients and we're looking at their life in the 0 to 8, or we're looking at their teenage years, or we're looking at various things that go on in a person's life, the amount of times that a person looks back at their childhood and they have judgment, they have resentment, they have all of these feelings because of whatever the parent had done, and they carry these feelings as if it was about them. That is a big one for people. It was a big one in my life. I had those feelings with regard to my mother and regard to my father. As a child, we don't know the difference. We just believe what we believe. And when I'm working with people and in my own life, when you reach that understanding that what the parents had going on wasn't about us, it was what they had going on at the time that we made about us. So it's important to literally kind of discern the difference between that, and the amount of freedom, the amount of grace, the amount of inner peace that comes from understanding it wasn't about me. I wasn't a bad kid. I wasn't stupid. I wasn't whatever all of these stories are that people carry with them, and they make themselves to be, that's who I am. When you can go through the process and understand that was about them, that was their, like as an example, my mother. I was just talking about this recently. I had a client come in who had a very similar life to me, and this was very recent. And it was, she was like kind of on a level telling my story. When I was a kid, I cleaned the house every single week, and my mother would come behind me and she'd be like, there's a spot, there's a spot, there's a spot. And I became a master cleaner. And my mother would be like, yeah, she's cute. She's not that smart. She's the dumb one. That was never who I was. But my mother had a belief around cleaning. My mother had a belief around girls and boys and what people are. So it wasn't who I was. It was her perception of what the things are that I was doing. And there's a lot of reasons for it. So when we do the process of understanding what that 0 to 8 looked like and what the kid in the back seat owned, and then you be that adult and understand who you truly are, that is empowering. So when you're looking at the character in the story, she had that whole experience. She learned what she learned, and then in the process of her moving forward, there was a point where she unlearned it and was able to step into who she authentically is. And that's what we do. That's what Nick and I do as therapists. We help people to understand you're not this story. You're so much more than the story. So you have to understand the story. You have to look at the timeline and realize, if you want to just start with, well, if it wasn't about me, then what was it? So when we understand our parents' story, or we understand how the scenario looked, Sometimes parents get into their own stuff. They have their own addictions. They have whatever, and they can't deal with it. So, we learn what we learn through them. So when you're doing this process of unraveling your own life story, and you're looking to be much more strategic in who you are choosing to be and moving forward, there is a process to all of it. And when you own the process, there is a part of it where you say, it's what it was back here. If it's not about me, then what is about me? Like, for example, when I'm working with people, who are you? Who are you? So there's a part of it when you're looking at who am I, many people don't ever say, well, the energy of the universe flows through here. I'm this brilliant, incredible, dynamic computer mind, computer heart. My heart talks to 50 trillion intelligent cells. I am that. I am. Almost never does that come out of anybody's mouth when they're sitting in front of me. They look at me like I'm crazy sometimes. It's like, what do you mean? Who am I? Well, I work here. I'm a mom. I'm a dad. I'm whatever all these things are. So when you're understanding in your own story who you are and how you actually create, then you're able to be more strategic in moving forward. Then you're able to own your story in a new way. You're able to drop the ideas of the past and create from a place of greater intention. And all of this is wildly important. It takes you out of the defense position because you realize there's not much to be defensive about. And when you're in the offense position, that's creative. Defense position means somebody else is usually creating. Like, as an example, when I say the defense position, the amount of people that I work with who are angry with somebody because somebody did whatever or somebody's doing whatever, when they are angry about it, they're in the other person's game. They're literally attached to their game. And like, for an example, I've had people tell me, I am angry with them and I don't mind being angry with them. Well, that's all fine and good, but as long as you're angry with them, your heart is producing electromagnetic energy that's angrily talking to your body. And I ended up with a kidney stone about that. So when we're angry, you're not winning, and the other person usually doesn't give a shit. So when you understand that you can be, instead of angry at the other person, you can move over into righteous anger and then use your word, then you're on the board. Then you're then you're strategizing. Then you are moving forward in a way that is constructive for you. So all of this is the rules of the game, as it were. So it's a way to play where you're owning a new way to do it instead of just thinking that life is happening to you or this horrible thing happened and you're a victim to it. It never has to look like that. It can look like that for a period of time. Sometimes I'm a victim to stuff. Sometimes people do whatever, and I'll be upset about it, and I'll have to sit there with it, and I'll have to use my own tools and do the fear into power. What is this? Why am I upset about what they're doing? Why do I care? And every single time I get to that point of, oh, this is what it is. And sometimes maybe I do have to apologize. Maybe I have to understand my part in it, and I have to let it go. Because I'm not perfect. I don't do everything right all the time. So when I do recognize you're upset because I did whatever, always, it's not intentional. So I have to see it, I have to recognize it, and I have to let it go after the apology. And then there's sometimes people do whatever they do. And I have to look at it and it's like, what am I going to do with this? I don't want to hold on to it. That puts me way back on the board. That puts me not winning. So I have to look at it. Do I want to communicate with this person? Sometimes I do. And sometimes it's like, is it worth the communication? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes I just have to let it go. But you have to authentically let it go, because as long as it's loitering, it's creative. So when you're doing all of this, it's for you, so that you're on the board and you're creating in a way that is intentional for you. And as we're moving into this new year, we all have the ability to make this year one of the best years ever. And from what Nick and I are looking at, there's going to be a lot of excellent things that are going to happen this year. And there may be moments that are challenging, like I said before. So when you are owning your place on the board, there's a part of it, it's like, if things come up that are challenging, you're looking ahead of time, strategizing. What do I need to do to make sure that as I go through anything, that I'm going to own my power? I'm going to own my ability to be conscious about it, that I'm going to be in the offensive position, that I am in the ability to make the decisions that are right for myself and anybody around me that I care about. I went through all of my notes and I didn't hardly even look at them. This is a very good thing. I have no idea what time it is. What time is I have?
About 12 minutes,
I have
13 minutes.
12 or 13 minutes. I see somebody is over there saying hi. So I don't know who it is. Hi, right back at you. You know, there is this busyness of life that we get into. And one thing that I have seen is like, people are moving from here to there really fast. And there's all this information that you can look at. There's all of this, look over here, look over there, and this is a problem, and that's a problem. And there's a lot of things that are designed intentionally to bring us into a fear state. So when you're in a moment of being in fear, false evidence appearing real, you're not owning your place on the board. So when you're looking at any bits of news, especially if it's mainstream news, I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. It used to be that the news was not able to lie. And one of the presidents, I'm not even going to go there, changed that law, and he put into effect that the Smith-Mundt Act, that you're now able to say whatever on the news. You're able to tell whatever stories. You don't have to tell the truth. So if you're watching those kind of things and you're finding yourself anxious, if you're finding yourself afraid about what's happening in the world, afraid of what's happening in your neighborhood, I want you to be very clear. You're in their game. And it's important to, in the beginning of this year, really take those moments to step back from watching those things. Like, I don't watch it at all anymore because I get it. I watch a whole bunch of different news, and not any of them is what I used to watch. And what I see is there is a lot that's happening. There's a lot of information that's coming out, and it's important that we be aware enough so that we don't have to be in fear. Because when you are feeling that fear, and then you have a thought attached to it, that's creative. It's creative inside of your body. It's creative outside of your body. You're creating from those feelings and from those thoughts. That's one of the things that I'm going to be diving a lot deeper into in a way that is easy to understand. I've got a PowerPoint that I'm putting together that makes it very, very user-friendly. But when you're at the beginning of this year, I want you to think about your body right now, and I want you to think about, like right now, you're probably in a state of somewhat being calm as you're watching this. Notice the calm. Notice how your body feels grounded and centered and focused. Literally take a moment and take a deep breath and bring yourself to that feeling of calm. Notice how you feel. That's a place where you're thinking more clearly. That's a place where your body is in a healing mode. That's where you're in the winning spaces on the board. So then I want you to think about, where do you feel in your body when you feel anxiety? Think about it. A lot of times people feel anxiety here. Sometimes they feel it here. Sometimes in their head. Where do you feel when you're feeling angry? Notice where that feeling is. It's important because a lot of times we're not paying attention to how the body's feeling because we get used to it. It's almost like normal to be anxious. It's normal to be angry. It's normal to be sad. It's normal to feel guilty or shamed. Shame is a big one. So these are the feelings where we're supposed to learn. We're supposed to be able to step back and look at those feelings with critical thinking. But unfortunately, a lot of times we're not paying attention to our mind and we're rolling in those feelings and they become a habit. So as we're here at the beginning of 24, those feelings, when you start to feel them in your body, stop. Literally stop whatever you're doing and take a minute to recognize, this is that thing that she was talking about. I'm feeling anxious. That's when you recognize, what am I anxious about? Then you're paying attention to the thought. Most of the time, anxiety isn't what's happening in the moment. Anxiety is, I'm thinking about something that may happen. So when you are checking yourself, you feel that feeling, what the hell is going on here? You're stopping the car. That's when you go into critical thinking. Critical thinking is you're asking yourself those questions. You're literally stopping the car, stopping you, and you're saying, is this true? Is what I'm anxious about true? Probably not. I don't think I used to have anxiety about getting sick. Oh my God, what if I get cancer? What if I can't work? What if? Because my job at that time was determined by my body. But here I am, I'm totally healthy and fine, but I'm anxious that I might get sick and I might not be able to support myself. So in that moment, I had to stop my car. Is it true? No. Here I am, I'm fine, I'm healthy. So I have to bring my attention back to, I'm healthy until I know otherwise. I'm going to make the choices. I am making the choices that keep this body healthy. I am, what are those things that now I'm going to move forward and do so that I'm not holding that space of anxiety and rolling in it. So when you are moving forward into 24, if you're angry, own your word. Go into righteous anger. Go into righteous actions. Do those things that make it where you're able to not roll in an illusion. You're able to mark your space on the board, you're able to strategize and you're able to do those things that make you the winner in your game. You know, all of this is a process, and none of it happens overnight. But as you're starting a new year, as we're all starting a new year, you begin the process now, and I want you to really get this. In 3 months, your life can look completely different. In 6 months, in the middle of the year in June, your life can look even more different. The amount of people that I have worked with who don't have the love of their life, and they start understanding why they don't have the love of their life. And it can be a whole bunch of different reasons. And then they start understanding, oh, it's because I do this. It's okay that I had done this. Now I get to realign myself and I get to do this. That brings about a partner. And then they have that partner X amount of time later. I've seen this happen so many times. Same thing if you're in a financially challenging situation. If you've got a job that you don't like, this is a very big one. The amount of people that I've worked with who understand, why am I in this position? What are the beliefs? What is it that I have as my habits? What are the things that create this when I really want to have that? It's a process. So when you are looking at your own timeline and when you're mapping out for yourself, this is who I am choosing to be in 24. This is my intention for 24. Literally sit down and write down your intentions for this year. And then next to them, what are the actions that you're going to take that will make those intentions come to be? It's like you're planting a seed in this fertile soil of this intense quantum universe, but you got to plant the seeds. And then as you plant the seeds, nobody ever goes in and says, is that thing growing? No, I don't know. You have faith and you're taking those actions, you're doing those things that are manifesting that seed to come into your fruit, the fruit of your labor. So the invitation is to sit down with pen and paper, because that's a powerful thing to do. When you're writing, it's important to do these things, not just in your phone. So sit down, create your intention list for 24. What are your actions? What are the things that you are doing to make this one of your best years ever? And then also in your intentions, when there is stuff that comes up that's a challenge, when we're in the midst of a storm, what will you do to be the calm in the midst of that storm? Imagine yourself in whatever that looks like. Keep knowing, I'm okay. I'm okay. So I think my time is nearly up. Thank you all so much for your support. I was telling Ed before this started, I said I was praying on the way over here, and I said to, God, my higher power, thank you so much for this opportunity to be of service. Thank you so much for everything that I've gone through that gives me the wisdom to own this word. Thank you so much. I'll do it. I'll do this podcast because I don't love doing this, but I'll do it and I'll like it somewhat. So thank you all for being here with me, and thank you for supporting me. And I will be back again next week. I believe I have a guest, which makes it more fun for me and possibly you. And if you would like to, please share this video, and I will be very, very happy to see you next week. So maybe write in the comments some of the intentions that you have for this year, some of the things that you're going to be creating and how you're going to own your game board. Okay? And if you want to get a hold of me, you can go to audreynewmont.com, and there's all my information there, and there's some meditations if you want to play with them, listen to them. There's a deep sleep meditation that seems to work for a lot of people. So you can always catch me on Facebook, Instagram, and And you can text me. And all my numbers and everything is available on all those sites. So much love to you, and Happy New Year.
You're watching Conscious Mind Tripping with your host, Audrey Newmont.
I think I will have this cold completely gone by next week. This is one of those things that Lloyd is in